When it's time to scale your business, it's time for Shopify. Get everything you need to grow the way you want. Like, all the way. Stack more sales with the best converting checkout on the planet. Track your cha-chings from every channel, right in one spot. And turn real-time reporting into big-time opportunities. Take your business to a whole new level. Switch to Shopify. Start your free trial today.
For the moments that matter, choose Curad Naturals. Infused with aloe vera and vitamin E, Curad Naturals bandages protect your unexpected scrapes, cuts, and burns while also moisturizing your skin. Find deeper relief with natural ingredients you can trust to start the healing. When life's surprises call for the best, choose Curad, a deeper level of care. Shop the full collection on Amazon or visit Curad.com to learn more.
Welcome to Exhuming the Truth. This podcast is dedicated to cold cases, missing persons, systemic injustices, and the art of forensic science that seeks answers when silence remains. My name is Asha Carmody, and I am a forensic scientist and a criminologist. And in each episode, we examine the evidence, the systems, and the human stories that are often left behind.
It's 1938. The 2-week pay period is invented. But then the world got faster. Faster travel, faster delivery, faster everything. Except our pay. Until now, with daily pay, everyone can access money they've earned when they need it. Yes, this is the future of pay. Daily pay. Work with the leader in on-demand pay at dailypay.com. Transfer fee may apply.
Reese Witherspoon here, checking into my favorite hotel in Paris. Bonjour.
Bonjour.
I'm traveling with my Wells Fargo Autograph Journey card, so I earn rewards wherever I book travel. 5 times points with hotels, 4 times with airlines, 3 times on restaurants and other travel, and 1 point on other purchases. Phew, that was a lot. I need to lie down. Is the room ready?
Visit wellsfargo.com/autographjourney. Terms apply.
Hello, everybody. I hope everybody is having a wonderful week so far. Today, I'm skipping housekeeping entirely, which I'm sure all of the grumpy people who hate housekeeping are going to be happy with. Hopefully, we can please them this week. But that is purely because I have a really long episode, and I tried to cut it down as much as I could, but it is pretty lengthy because it's got lots of parts. Then I was going to put it in 2 parts. We'll see how we go and how long I'm, yapping my ear off, your ear off for. I'll do my best to keep it at a good length. I suppose you can always pause it and walk away and come back. But yeah, we might do it in 2 parts. If so, the second part will be out in 2 days on Thursday. But this is the death of a 17-year-old girl in Thailand, a forensic and legal analysis. The following episode is based on publicly available information as of the date of recording. Criminal proceedings are ongoing, and any allegations discussed remain allegations unless they are proven in court. This episode is intended to explain the forensic science and the legal process, not to determine guilt. All right, let's just paint a bit of a picture about the setting of this entire situation. Pattaya. This is in Thailand, and I think Thailand is one of those countries where tourists go and they go again, a bit like Indonesia. We have been to Thailand. My grandfather has lived there for, I think, my entire life. He's actually the former Australian consulate there, but he's just turned 91, so he's well and truly retired now. But when we went, we didn't get much of that tourist experience, I suppose. It was more of the living experience because we stayed with him in his house. In saying that, we were actually introduced to so many different people in Chiang Mai and Bangkok, and everybody was so incredibly friendly. I think the feedback is much the same, that everybody is happy and friendly and they love children. Now, Pattaya is an area that I'm not familiar with, so to set the scene that we're working with, here's a bit of a background. I've put all references and everything in the show notes if you wanted to have a look yourself. Now, what I've gathered is Pattaya is a coastal city on the Gulf of Thailand, and it's about 150 kilometres away from Bangkok. Now, depending on the traffic, you can get to Pattaya from Bangkok in around 2 to 3 hours drive, it says, but it's actually listed as one of Thailand's most visited tourist destinations, attracting millions of domestic and international visitors every year. And the bit that I loved most in looking at this area was that it was actually originally a small fishing village, but during the Vietnam War, it became really popular as a rest and recreation destination for the American military personnel. And from there, it just continued to grow into this tourism hub that it is today. And, you know, today, in this day and age right now, it's known mostly for its beaches, island tours, nightlife, shopping centres, like you name it. There's lots of pictures of water sports and all the fun things. And while many families do go there to holiday, it's actually internationally recognised for its entertainment districts, you know, like the nightlife and, of course, the adult entertainment industry. It's very popular for that. And in saying that, this is the general area, but this case itself allegedly occurred in a suburb of Pattaya. And this is a little suburb called Jomtien, which is just south of central Pattaya. And it's generally a lot quieter than the main city and more of a relaxed, beachy kind of vibe, but it is still very much a part of Pattaya. Now, of course, this is about a 17-year-old girl. And who was she? What was her name? Tunchanok Donhomla was her name. And before we start, I want to acknowledge that this case centres the death of a child. She is still very much a child at age 17, and Tunchanok Donhomla was only 17 years old, and there's been a lot of media coverage and a lot of public discussion and online discussion. I want to tell you now that this episode is going to be focusing on verified and fact-check information. I take it very, very seriously, particularly when a child is involved, and in turn, we're always remaining victim-centred. So I want to introduce her and how she was known by her loved ones before we get into the details of this case. Now, her nickname is so cute and I love it so much. And I had actually written the script before I knew she had a nickname. And I was referring to her by her first name the whole time. And then when I learned her nickname, I literally thought, nah, scrap that. I'm changing the script to use her nickname. I think it's more personal to her. Like, it's something that people who knew and loved her called her. And it's really, really cute. And she was known affectionately as Cake. And like I said, she was 17 years old and she was from the northeastern area of Thailand. And she lived with her dad. His name was Tong Chai. And also her stepmother, which is Oridi. And she was the only child. Her dad actually spoke publicly about raising her without her biological mother and said that whenever Cake wanted something, she always worked really hard to earn it herself. And in doing so, she regularly helped financially support her family, which is so beautiful. And those close to her have, you know, her friends as well, like all the same words keep coming up: hardworking, very caring, very determined, despite growing up in quite difficult financial circumstances. Now, in the days before her life ended, Cake actually travelled from where she lived to the coastal city of Pattaya with her friend. And according to her family and to Thai police, she had wanted to visit the beach and spend some time away on a bit of a short holiday. Now, following introducing the victim, I would usually go into an offender profile. I haven't done that today. I've literally written one sentence about the alleged offender and who he is because I just didn't want to give him that much attention. His name is Simon Peter Carmen. He was 45 years old at the time of this crime, which is, of course, quite recent. I don't know when his birthday is. He was born in Victoria and raised in WA. That's all I have for you, really. His name is Simon Carmen. So you might hear me refer to him as Simon, otherwise Carmen, otherwise both. Now, before we get into this timeline, I debated on where to put this next little segment, but I think contextually it fits best here before going into what allegedly occurred. And that's for a couple of reasons, but I'll just go into it first because there was this article right by Perth Now. And the heading was, Thai mum details encounter with accused murderer Simon Carmen just weeks before the alleged killing of 17-year-old girl. Now, in this article, it basically says that this woman was 43 years old at the time. Her name is Tang Chai. She was happy to be named. And she's also a mother of two. And she told the media that just weeks before this alleged incident, and again, you're going to hear me say alleged quite a lot. That's obviously because this is an active case. She said that she actually spent a night in Simon Carmen's room after meeting him in a nearby 7-Eleven where he had asked for her number. And he had her number and then he proceeded to message her through WhatsApp that day later on and was asking her to go on a date with him. And she basically said no because she needed money from customers and didn't want to go unless she was getting paid. So he's then agreed to pay for 1 hour on the following day, to which she's subsequently agreed to those terms. She goes on to say that as soon as she enters Simon's room, she was immediately shocked by the bad smell. She said that he had paid her 150 Australian dollars with $8.50 Australian again tip. And she recalls seeing what he was accused of doing. And she said once she read that and saw his name and image pop up, she couldn't sleep for 3 days because she was terrified. And she actually also said that she was stuck thinking about the victim and how this could have happened to her. Obviously, this has shaken her quite a bit because that obviously could have been her if she was in this situation. And yeah, that's just awful. And it's something I wanted to put in there because it does paint a bit of a picture. So let's just get into the timeline as we know it as of today. As you know, when things are kind of happening at the time, things change quite quickly. This is facts as of today. They have been fact-checked. And of course, any actions that haven't been proven in court are all alleged. So let's go back to June this year, so the 25th of June, and it's early hours of the morning. And CCTV footage shows Simon Carmen picking up cake near the Beach Road Vice Strip in Pattaya. And from there, he actually takes her back to his apartment. And the Thai police then allege that in the apartment that he has allegedly strangled her to death in his room due to an alleged dispute, which was regarding the payment for sexual services. Now, let's not forget that Cake was 17 years old, okay? This is a 45-year-old man. Anyway, so the daytime of June 25th, Carmen goes about his day as usual, right? He starts like shopping, he's going out to eat, he's doing laundry, all these really regular mundane things. But all the while, Cake's body is allegedly still in his room. Now, come that evening of June 25, the security cameras actually capture Carmen loading a suitcase onto a motorcycle and then dumping that suitcase in waist-high grass next to a railway line not too far from his apartment. Now, come the next day, which is June 26th, and Cake's obviously gone away with her friends, right? She told her dad and her stepmom she was going on this little holiday with her friends, so they knew about her whereabouts. And the next day, June 26th, they've reported her missing, and they go to Simon's apartment and they don't find her. Also, what great friends and acting so quickly. So 1:15 a.m. June 27th, which is the following day, this is when Simon Carmen is arrested. Now, this is all very quick. This was actually at the airport in Bangkok. It was the immigration authorities that stopped him, and it was literally minutes before he was due to board a flight bound for Perth, which is obviously in Australia, if you didn't know. And that day, that same day, like these guys don't mess about. That same day, the Thai authorities discover the suitcase that Carmen dumped or allegedly dumped. They open it up, and inside the suitcase, they find Cake's naked, dead body inside. Now, later in June to kind of / early July, Simon Carmen is then charged with murder, and he's also charged with moving and or concealing a body and taking a minor for sexual purposes. Now, he's actually denied the murder and also made claims that he acted in self-defense. Now, all of that is also referenced in the BBC report, but again, all the references will be in the show notes if you want to have a read. Now, messages from Simon to Cake's family. Originally, I thought surely he doesn't have their number and he's texting them. But I believe, don't quote me, but I believe that this was caught on camera when he was arrested and he was talking to the police. So I think it was a message for them as such. I don't think he was directly talking to them. But he said, and I quote, "I feel bad for what happened to your daughter. It was out of my control." Now, media reports from the BBC and ABC and other news sources say that upon his arrest, he told the police that he agreed to pay Cake 1,000 baht, so that's 43 Australian dollars, and that's what he was going to pay her for sexual services. But they had an argument and they returned to his apartment where he offered only 500 baht, so half of what he initially offered. And the Thai police told ABC directly that Carmen also claimed she had, and I quote, disappeared from the room while he was asleep. Now, the superintendent of the Pattaya City Police Station also told the ABC that he, and I quote, has fingernail scratches across his body that are consistent with a struggle, but he denies killing her. Now, there was a clip from Simon Carmen after his arrest, and he is shown to be referring to these scratches, and he literally says, and I quote again, "I think it's a spider they always get in here." Yeah, no comment. After getting this awful news from Thai officials, then obviously Cake's dad is completely heartbroken. And he actually goes on to say, "My daughter had no mother, so whenever she wanted anything, she would find a way herself, and she always helped me too." And her stepmother also said, "We were scared. We just hoped it wouldn't turn out the way we feared. Now our eyes are swollen from crying. I just want him executed. I even asked the police if I could hit him, if I could beat him." And that is so sad. That is just heartbreaking. And I also just praise be to the stepmother saying that, because I would be the same. Now, I'll leave that where it is. That's the information that's kind of out there at the moment. The way that has been verified is through a fact-checking process twice. But, I do fact check, but we always have to be so careful when things are active and kind of assume everything is alleged, because that's just the way the law goes. So from here, we're going to talk about the forensic investigation and kind of what we could expect to obtain, or what we'd be trying to obtain forensically in order to charge somebody with murder in a situation like this. And just before we start this segment talking about the forensic investigation, everything I'm about to discuss relates to standard forensic practice in a homicide investigation. So Thai police have not publicly released the full forensic findings in this case, so I'm not going to speculate or present assumptions as fact. Instead, I'm going to just look at what investigators would typically be trying to establish in a case like this and why each piece of said evidence matters. Now, when police believe a homicide has occurred inside an apartment or an enclosed space, the first priority is preserving the scene exactly how it was found, and that starts with scene security. So investigators are going to restrict access to everybody except essential personnel going in and out of that area. Every person who enters or leaves has to be recorded. That reason is very simple. It's just because every additional person coming and going kind of introduces the possibility of contaminating the scene. So if a fingerprint, shoe print or DNA profile is later recovered, then they need to be able to match that back to somebody who had been on that log, and then obviously identify a potential offender, I guess, that is related to that incident. So once the scene is secured, the forensic photographers begin documenting everything. And people like to think that forensic photographers are actually different from forensic crime scene examiners. They're not. In forensics, you kind of do everything. If you're at the scene, you're taking the photos, you're taking the swabs, you're doing everything. So that's when they would start taking photos of everything. They like to do that at a wide angle, a closer mid-range and a close-up. Of course, if there's areas of interest, we're marking those, putting them next to a scale and things like that. It's not simply just taking pictures for a report. So they do have to do multiple angles of every area in that vicinity before anything is moved, touched, swabbed, everything like that. So those photos actually become a permanent record of the scene exactly as it appeared when investigators arrived. So in the case that they may have missed something, they're able to go back to the photos exactly how it was and document that. So months or even years later, they allow experts, prosecutors, and ultimately a jury to understand the original context when they look at those photos. Now from there, they'd be looking for fingerprints, right? So smooth surfaces such as door handles, coffee tables, glass, benches, light switches, luggage even. Not that there would be any in there, but I'm not sure. If there were, they'd be looking at that. So depending on the surface, they might use fingerprint powders. Otherwise, if it's not a surface that is appropriate for powders, there is chemical treatments that you can use. And then there's ALS, which is an alternative specialized light source. And that does reveal latent prints and things that just aren't visible to the naked eye. And if suitable fingerprints are recovered, then they can help establish like who touched particular objects. And in some circumstances, when those interactions may have occurred alongside other evidence. Now, DNA is obviously a very critical component of most cases. Investigators would typically collect DNA from anything believed to have been handled during that incident. So swabs can be taken from anything like door handles, clothes, bedding, towels, just basically anything like that. It's not just about IDing who was present. It's actually helping to reconstruct interactions between people and identify transfers that occurred during physical contact. And that will either support or contradict witness accounts. And one area people often misunderstand is blood evidence, because visible blood is only part of the picture. Now, investigators use a lot of chemical screening tests and alternative light sources when it comes to blood. Obviously, you've seen and heard of luminol, I'm going to assume. There's something else called blue star forensic, and both of those can identify areas where blood may have been cleaned. And these are chemicals basically, and they act with the iron component in hemoglobin, and they can reveal blood stains that have been either diluted, washed, or are otherwise invisible under normal lighting. And if they get positive reactions, then those are bits that can be, or areas that can be sampled and taken back to the lab for further DNA testing, a bit more intricate testing. It's important to remember, though, with saying that these chemicals are presumptive. So a positive reaction indicates an area that could have, potential for further examination. It's not proof in itself. Now, with that, investigators will be looking at trace evidence. That's always, key in these investigations. And there's a forensic principle that I know and love, and I've spoken about it a billion times. But if you're new here, it's the low cards exchange principle, and it's very, very old. And we live by it, basically. It's just saying whenever two people come into contact, they exchange material. Now, that could be hair, skin cells, fibers from clothing, soil, dust, cosmetic particles, or microscopic debris. And many of these items are literally invisible without the equipment that we have, yet they can become incredibly important when reconstructing, not constructioning, I don't know what I'm talking about, when they're trying to reconstruct the events. So if investigators believe that movement occurred within this apartment, then they could also be looking for footwear impressions. They're not always in mud. They can be left in dust, in blood, or even invisible residues on hard flooring surfaces. We also have electrostatic lifting films. So they're like gel lifters and specialized photography that all kind of work together to preserve impressions for later comparison with seized footwear, if that should be part of the evidence. Of course, like I mentioned before, fibre evidence. So that would be coming from clothing. It would also be coming from bedding. Any fibres that are transferred during physical contact can sometimes associate individuals or even objects with one another. So there's all these really tiny microscopic things that do just tell a part of the story, and they give you, a little hint in the right direction or the wrong direction. And when you have so many bits and pieces, you can put the puzzle together, and it can become quite significant when you're, you've got DNA and you've got a fingerprint and you have other evidence. All of those things can work, in a pattern or together consistent with something else. Now, finally, obviously, every single item that is collected from a crime scene has to be documented through a process called the chain of custody. So every exhibit gets a unique number, You have to record where it was found, who collected it, when it was packaged, who transported it. Any time that bag is moved, who's moving it, what time. It's literally, you have to account for every minute, because if you do not, then they will not use that as reliable evidence in court. They will literally question if that is even going to be called to evidence if that is not done correctly. Now, ultimately, homicide prosecutions rarely depend on one dramatic piece of forensic evidence. Like I said, it is about compounding things, pathology, witness statements, digital records, trace evidence, all these kinds of things. And in a case like this one, forensic science isn't about proving a theory. It's never about proving a theory. It's about allowing that physical evidence collection to tell its own story, one piece at a time. And that's why I love it so much. Now, in saying that, the crime scene is not the only kind of thing that you can get evidence from. Sorry.
This is going to be an extremely busy month. I have to watch 104 soccer games, follow the pregame, the postgame, yell useless opinions at the TV. It's a lot. So I knew that when it comes to screening for colon cancer, the choice was clear. The Cologuard Plus test. It can be used at home and can only take 15 minutes, so I can do it during halftime and not miss any action. If you are 45 or older and at average risk, ask your healthcare provider about screening for colon cancer with the Cologuard test. You can also request a prescription at Cologuard.com.
I wrote a little song to remind you, Choice Hotels gets you more of the experiences you value. The Cambria Hotel's got it all. A rooftop bar, have a ball. Cocktails up here feel just right. Is Cambria amazing? All right. Bring a date, your teen, or even your mom. Book direct at choicehotels.com. See you on the roof.
And yes, I'm talking digital investigation. It's 2026. So just as important as that physical evidence, we have digital evidence. And in this case, like I mentioned in the timeline, we know without alleging anything to do with this crime, we know because of CCTV the exact date and time that places these two together. That's something we don't have to allege because we've got a visual with a timestamp for that one. So digital evidence is so important. And I want to stress that, again, this discussion is about standard forensics. I will relay where I can. Not going to speculate, but again, CCTV, that's not a speculation. There's literally just recording of what is. So does that necessarily mean that they were together later that night? No. But if they're caught on CCTV at a certain date on a certain time, well, bang, that's digital evidence to say they were together on this date at this time because here's a picture from the video. So digital evidence is very, very important. There's also things on your mobile phone like they can reveal call logs, texts, internet searches, photos, videos, app activity, when you last used your phone, what you were doing when you were last on your phone, deleted messages, deleted calls, like absolutely everything. Fragments of conversations can be recovered if they've been deleted. They might obtain copies from another person's device and kind of try and match things up. iCloud, so much. Like, phones are scary these days. Also, another thing with smartphones is the GPS and location data. If you have listened to our episode on, which case was it? Was it Theo Hayes? That was a very digital heavy, and it did kind of paint a picture of what Theo was doing. Thank you to his mobile phone with the GPS location. He is, of course, still missing. However, it did help show us a bit of what happened that night. So you never know what bit you're going to need to kind of ultimately solve a case, I guess. But they don't just record GPS also. They also store location about Wi-Fi networks, where your phone's pinging, what Wi-Fi you're connected to at what time, all these sorts of things. It's absolutely insane. We spoke about CCTV. That's another important one. Financial transactions, obviously, at ATMs, bank cards, electronic transfers and things like that. A single transaction can confirm if someone was alive at a particular time, or even confirm that they're not alive, but somebody else had used their account, things like that. And of course, access records for like hotels and apartments and where the crime scene allegedly was. I'm unsure if that was a hotel or like an apartment complex, if he was like living there. I really am not sure. I couldn't find anything to confirm that. Like there was lots of bits and pieces, but no real source to attribute that to, so I didn't add it in. So, but obviously that building where he was staying, there would be record of that. And that's obviously not going to prove who physically walked through that door and at what time, but it can help compare CCTV and other evidence and things like that and paint a better picture. Now, the next segment is what made this so long, and it is the crime versus the law segment, because we have an Australian man in a foreign country who's commit a crime in the foreign country against one of their own people. And it gets really legally messy. And I want to talk about the potential in this case for different outcomes, what that means, and the jurisdiction over these crimes. And it's gonna be long, I think, because it's quite, like, I haven't done it too detailed. I've tried to make it as understandable as possible, but there is. So I think what I'm going to do is leave it there, do part 2 on Thursday, because we're going to go through understanding the Thai criminal law and their murder investigations versus ours, and kind of what we can expect during the trial. And you're probably like, yeah, boring, I want to hear all of it. However, I'm only halfway through, and there's a lot to understand about the court process with a case like this, particularly because this case involves the death of a 17-year-old girl, and this actually falls under the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child, and that is not something super common that we would typically know about, so I want to go through that so you understand as well. And I also have to go through why body concealment is investigated, because that's actually investigated a bit differently to normal cases, and then we'll do a bit of a closing. But of course, actually, if I'm recording this Thursday, if anything new pops up, I'll do a bit of a recap at the start, but part 2 will be on Thursday. We're going to go through if he is prosecuted in Thailand and serves there, what he'll be looking at versus all the options. Of course, if he is found to be guilty, and what they will need for a guilty verdict and everything like that. So we'll go through that on Thursday. I'm really sorry to kind of cut it off, but I just don't want to be putting like an hour and a half episode out there and be super annoying. So thank you so much for joining me. This has been Exhuming the Truth. You can follow us across all social media platforms. You can also jump on our website. We have an anonymous tip form. So if you have anything about any of our missing persons cases or any of the systemic injustice cases and you want to contribute what you know, you can do that there anonymously. We are only interested in finding people's missing loved ones and any other helpful bits and pieces that you feel might contribute as a piece to the enormous puzzle that we have in Australia. Thank you so much for being here. Have a beautiful day.